Good morning, friends. Today we are going to learn module number 3, part B, After 20 Years, a short story by O. Henry. In the previous lecture, we learned about the writing skills for competitive examinations. Now we are going to learn the reading comprehension part, that is the short story part B, the After 20 Years by O. Henry. Introduction to author. See, William Sidney Porter, his period 1862 to 1910, better known by his pen name O. Henry. All of you know O. Henry, one of the famous short story writer, is one of the great masters of short stories. He was born in Carolina, USA. Since his childhood, he had been a voracious reader. O. Henry's short stories deal with the life of ordinary people with compassion and tenderness. His stories express the effect of coincidence on character through humor and with unexpectedly shocking endings. O. Henry wrote over 600 short stories. Died of he died of tuberculosis at the age of 48. See, here is a introduction to your story, that is the After 20 Years. The present story after 20 years is a typical O. Henry story because it has a twist ending. It is about two friends, Bob and Jimmy, who made a pact to meet at a specific place after 20 years. The story deals with the theme of friendship, change, guilt, dedication, or loyalty. The story ends with a twist conflict between friendship, loyalty, and love. See what is the actual story. See, beginning with the cop description, that is, the cop means police. The cop moved along the street looking strong and important. This was the way he always moved. He was not thinking of how he looked. There were few people on the street to see him. It was only about 10 at night, but it was cold, and there was a wind with a little rain in it. He stopped at doors as he walked along, trying each door to be sure that it was closed for a night. Now and then he turned and looked up and down the street. He was a fine looking cop, watchful, guarding the peace. See the sentence. Now and then he turned and looked up and down the street. Recurrently, he seen up and down the street. Why? Because he is a Jimmy looking for his friend, and the cop is waiting for his friend. Now, this is the description of the cop, that is actually who is a Jimmy. People in this part of the city went home early. Now and then you might see the lights of a shop or of a small restaurant, but most of the doors belonged to business places that had been closed hours ago. See, this is the description of the at the time of the night. And then the cop suddenly slowed his walk. Near the door of a darkened shop, a man was standing. As the cop walked towards him, the man spoke quickly. "It's all right, officer," he said. "I am waiting for a friend. 20 years ago, we agreed to meet here tonight. It sounds strange to you, doesn't it? I will explain if you want to be sure that's everything all right. About 20 years ago, there was a restaurant where this shop stands. Big Joy, Brady's restaurant. Here, Bob is explaining his story to that cop. Actually, who is that cop? The cop is Jimmy. It was here until 5 years ago, said the cop. The man near the door had a colorless square face with bright eyes and a little white mark near his right eye. He had a large jewel in his necktie. 20 years after tonight, said the man. Now Bob started his story. I had dinner here with Jimmy Wells. He was my best friend and the best fellow in the world. He and I grew up together here in New York. like two brothers. I was 18 and Jimmy was 20. The next morning, I was to start for the West. I was going to find a job and make a great success. You couldn't have pulled Jimmy out of New York. He thought it was the only place on earth. So, he explained his story. We agreed that night that we would meet here again in 20 years. We thought that in 20 years we would know what kind of men we were and what future waited for us. It sounds interesting, said the cook. A long time between meetings, it seems to me. Have you heard from your friends since you went west? Yes, for a time we did write to each other, said the man. But after a year or two, we stopped. The West is big. I moved around everywhere and I moved quickly. But I know that Jimmy will meet me here if he can. He was as true as any man in the world. He will never forget. I came 1,000 miles to stand here tonight. But I will be glad about that if my old friend comes too. The waiting man took out a fine watch covered with small jewels. 3 minutes before 10, he said. It was 10 that night when we said goodbye here at the restaurant door. You are successful in the West, weren't you? Asked the cook. See, how now before that cop asked the question, have you write down or have you any contact with your friends after you left for the West? And now the second question is asked that are you were successful in the West, weren't you? I surely was. I hope Jimmy has done half as well. He was a slow mover. I have had to fight for success. In New York, a man doesn't change much. In the West, you learn how to fight for what you get. The cook took a step or two. I will go on my way, he said. I hope your friend comes all right. If he isn't here at 10, are you going to leave? I am not, said the other. I will wait half an hour at least. If Jimmy is alive on earth, he will be here by that time. Good night, officer. Good night, said the cook, and walked away, trying doors as he went. Now Bob is waiting for his friend. Cobb left the place. There was now cold rain falling and wind was stronger. The few people walking along that street were hurrying, trying to keep warm, and at the door of the shop stood the man who had come 1,000 miles to meet a friend. Such a meeting could not be certain, but he waited. About 20 minutes he waited, and then a tall man in a long coat came hurrying across the street. He went directly to the waiting man. Is that you, Bob? He asked doubtfully. Is that you, Jimmy Wells? Cried the man at the door. The new man took the other man's hands in his. It's Bob, it surely is. I was certain I would find you here if you are still alive. 20 years is a long time. The old restaurant is gone, Bob. I wish it were here so that we could have another dinner in it. Has the West been good to you? It gave me everything I asked for. You have changed, Jimmy. I never thought you were so tall. Oh, I grew a little after I was 20. Are you doing well in New York, Jimmy? Well enough. I work for the city. Come on, Bob. We will go to the place I know, and I have a good long talk about old times. The two men started along the street, arm in arm. The man from the west was beginning to tell the story of his life. The other, with his coat up to his ears, listened with interest. At the corner stood a shop bright with electric light. Now, see, they both of them meet each other. Bob said, you are uh, changed a lot and you are mm, little taller, and now they go to the go to go to through that street and now in the electric light. See what happened at that corner of the street? When they came near, each turned to look at the other's face. The man from the west stopped suddenly and pulled his arm away. You are not Jimmy Wells, he said. 20 years is a long time, but not long enough to change the shape of man's nose. Now Bob recognizes he is not a Jimmy Wells. Now the person said, it sometimes changes a good man into a bad one. Now that cop want to say want to say that want to say that the Bob is a good man, but now he is a bad one, said the tall man. You have been under arrest for 10 minutes, Bob. Chicago cops thought you might be coming to New York. They told us to watch for you. Are you coming with me quietly? That's wise. But first, here is something I was asked to give you. You may read it here at the window. It's from a cop named Wells. Now, the tall man said him, you are under arrest. It means Bob is a criminal and came to New York to meet Jimmy Wells, but now he is under arrest and he the tall man gave him a piece of paper, and the man from the west opened the little piece of paper. Bob opened the little piece of paper. His hand began to shake a little as he read, and now he began to read. That is, Bob, I was at the place on time. It means the first cop is the Jimmy Wells. I saw the face of the man wanted by Chicago cops. I didn't want to arrest you myself, so I went and got another cop and sent him to do the job. Jimmy, see, he write down only the note for his true friend that he didn't want to arrest his friend. Now Bob never recognizes Jimmy who is came before him at that place, and twist end is that shock to Bob by reading that piece of paper. Here we can understand how the one friend is loyal, another friend is not loyal, and because of their friendship, he left that place and sent another cop to arrest Bob. So, here we can understand the short story by O. Henry, how it is a twist ending, and how the friend Jimmy never changed his nature throughout his life for his friend, but Bob changed a lot and become a criminal. So, it is a story by O. Henry after 20 years. See how there is a change in the person after 20 years, and Jimmy waited there for Bob, but there is no use of that waiting and meeting after 20 years. So, loyalty and devotion of Jimmy Wells is the core part of this particular story, and how there is a end, and he went from that place and sent another police to arrest Bob. So, here we can understand how it is a twist end.